Neva Parker.
I'm Bex Campbell.
And I'm Tomas Evangelista. And this is Our Own Heroes podcast.
Woohoo! All right, today, what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about activism. Is that right?
What winning looks like? What does winning look like?
Okay, what does winning look like? I mean, in our area, people, if we want to be really candid about it, in our area, people with our ideological perspectives don't typically win when they run for office.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course that's a very official type of winning, right? When you run for office and you win your race, your seat. But I think one of the things that we hope to talk about in the podcast is what winning looks like at different levels of life, at different levels within the community, at different experiences of what it looks like to succeed at something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think it's important to mention that there's another type of winning. Winning usually is known for winning trophies, winning something, succeeding, which definitely, of course, is the definition of winning. But there's also, I think, I don't want to call it an alternative, but another version of winning that I think needs to be not just discussed here, but also highlighted and make sure people understand that it's not just about being number one. I think for me in this country, for as long as I've known, like, America's number one, like, we're number one, but we're not. Not in a lot of things. And we might have been at some point, I think there is, but there's just this big mentality that, if you're not winning, then you're losing, and losing is bad. And it reminds me of the movie Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell. You know that quote I'm talking about?
No, but hit it. What do you got?
It's if you're not first, you're last. Like, and it's it's something that I find hilarious, and yeah, and definitely when you're in a race, like, or in a competition, winning is the objective, but there's only one person out of everybody that can do that. So, like, that means that everyone else is losing, but there is still winning in some of their efforts and what they do. Sometimes, like you mentioned about this district, it's not just about winning, it's about progress too, like getting better at something. Like, that's kind of how I see it. Like, as long as you're progressing, like, that to me is winning, because nobody's gonna be good at something right away. We all see sometimes the successes, but behind that success are a lot of failures, a lot of, probably taking a step back. But there's also a lot of smaller wins where there's progressions into that victory, or that big accomplishment that you did. So, and that stuff's really just not highlighted and not talked about enough, in my opinion. So people then, what they see is like, oh, I gotta be perfect. I need to, this is how I win. And, oh, that person is so amazing because they won. They did it. But nobody likes to talk about the losing, or the bad stuff, or the slow progressions. So I think that's why I think winning, the version of winning that I want to talk about, and I think that we'll talk about here, is the ones where you progress to a certain level, or before you achieve that big win that you really want.
Yeah. When I first ran, or was talking about doing it, a lot of the conversations were, I go and ask for advice and try to find advisors and consultants and things like that. And the first response was, you're going to lose. Like, you're going to lose, right? Yeah, I'm pretty, yeah, I know. I've heard this plenty of times, but it was actually good that I did because it helped me uh, realize a few things. One, winning here when you're so far behind, when years and years of, and I'm speaking about elections, years and years of another party, another group being in charge, to go in expecting you're going to win right off the bat is uh, not sustainable. It's not something, it's going to be a one offer more than likely. You're not going to help in the long run. And it made me realize that it's an incremental process, especially when you are coming from, the level at which we're coming from. And so I had to redefine what I meant or what it meant for me for winning. And you guys know, being on the campaign, we had two objectives. One was, of course, the short-term goal of winning that election. So we're going to do everything we can to win that election. But the long-term goal was to build our presence, to prove to the community that Democrats in this area could win and that we could govern and that we had value and an ability to govern beyond, that we could do it. Like, so I think I'm losing my words right now, but the whole point was, at that point, we're building like stepping stones and building a process. Again, I'm rambling a little bit, but I want to go back to this little saying I have right here. Oh, you can't see it's backwards, but be brave enough to suck at something new. So
Well, it's so straightforward to me. I can read it, so
okay.
maybe the audience can too as well.
Yeah, but
Where did you get that?
I got it at a store in Roseville called Sparrow. It's in Old Town Roseville, next to, I think, by the Fig Tree Coffee, and it's really cute. They have all these like things like that and like repurposed stuff. It's a little art
And the
stuff.
only reason I asked that is because I have one, but
Oh,
if it's gifted to me, actually, on my birthday by the Tuppers, Susanna and Steve Tupper,
oh, yeah.
and I can't quite remember what mine says,
Uh-huh.
but we put it in my garden, so I'd have to run outside and get it. But it's something that I really enjoyed, and so I was like, oh, that looks similar to what I have. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that I see that you also have one.
Well, yeah. So it's at a place called Sparrow, and it's in Old Town Roseville off of Vernon Street, right there next to Fig
Wonderful.
Tree. And it was a really fun, kind of fun shop to go into. But anyway, but that's this whole entire election, everything kind of that you go through life, especially as you're older and you have a career and you get to a point where you're pretty good at what you do. You have some level of authority, you have some level of respectability, and then you stop and you're like, oh, I'm going to do something completely new. And to have the expectation that you're going to still have that level of authority and that level of respect, you're just not gonna, you're gonna suck at what you do. You're not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be great. And it's gonna be a learning process, which all of that was. But in terms of winning, to get back to that, we really did have to redefine what winning was. And for us, in my opinion, it was, one, getting my name out there and more, but two, building the respectability of the party in the district, and in Placer County and in the area, and taking the conversation, moving the conversation away from the polarization of, Democrats bad, Republicans good, liberals bad, conservatism good, all of that, getting that conversation away back to, what do we want our community to look like and what do we want it to be, and being able to listen to each other. And that was sort of a goal for me, but anyway.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think it's interesting. So I'm like, as I'm listening to you, Neva, I'm thinking about, I'm actually marrying two thoughts. So Tomas, you had said the quote from Talladega Nights about if you're not winning, you're losing. And I think that's interesting because I think that sort of speaks to our entire societal perspective, like this very much like, if you're not first place, like you shouldn't have even showed up. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? Kind of
Mhm.
energy. And, you know, sort of just, and I will say some of it's steeped in American sort of, this is how the, you know, our country sees themselves, that we're number one, go team kind of stuff. And I think that it's really been to our detriment in a lot of ways. Um, because I think part of what you tried to do, Neva, and what I was remembering from the campaign as you were talking, is building the pathway for people maybe even beyond you. So you're going to run, you're going to do your thing, you're going to take your shot, you're going to go as, you know, as far and do as best as you can. However, it may not work out for you,
Mhm.
but along the way, you might inspire other people to do the same.
Mhm.
You might encounter people who are seeing you be the first one to show up, knowing, as you said, as so many people hopefully gingerly told you that you probably didn't have a good shot, people are going to see you showing up anyway.
Yeah.
And to me, that speaks volumes, not only about character, but just about the commitment to the overall mission, right? Which is to govern, to be a representative entity for your community, to advocate for the people who are your neighbors, like
Yeah.
where you call home. And so I think, you know, in terms of thinking about, you know, winning and progress, I think that's, I mean, it kind of harkens back to that whole representation matters. It matters seeing people show up and try. It matters seeing different perspectives in a space. It matters that you know, you didn't have great odds going in and you went anyway.
Mhm.
Went anyway.
Well, thanks.
You know, I think that that's an admirable quality and one that we should all aspire to.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good example actually, of what we should see. What winning is also like. Like, sure, you didn't come in first, but at the same time, there was a lot of things that you did, that I feel like no other candidate has done in a long time, and especially for that race. And I think it speaks more to how we need to see politics, and how we need to make an honest effort to reach across the aisle no matter how hard it is.
Mhm.
Also to examine like our own party, or whichever party you're with. Is it aligning with your values? Like, are things actually getting done? Is this person effective? Like, those are questions that I feel like you brought up in the campaign and moved a little bit of the conversation there.
Mhm.
And so, for me, I thought that was a huge success, and that was a win. And I think it needs to grow from that. I think then we need to have a louder voice, a wider range of reaching people, because you saw it when you were knocking on doors. You spoke to some people, and they were shocked, and there was some agreement on some issues there, and they just didn't know. And so
Yeah.
it's the very hard work. And so even that conversation that you had with that individual at the door was very important, and there was a good conversation with somebody that I feel like most people wouldn't want to, that are left leaning. They wouldn't
Yeah.
want to have a conversation with that individual. I've heard of some people doing it, but it doesn't happen often. And so for me, that's one little win right there. That conversation you had, and we don't know if that person voted for you. Like, they might have not. And But I think they got another perspective, and they found somebody that at least they could say, wow, like, she's a Democrat and she understood what I was talking about, and we agreed on some things. And I'm for me, the way I see it is like, I hope that there's a seed planted in her, not physically but metaphorically, of course. Something's planted in there, where if in these and these later on, where she can come back to that moment and realize, like, okay, I'm hearing this from somebody from this person that I support, but this lady came to my door and she wasn't like that, and so maybe
Yeah.
there's hope that that's not like that. So um, I say that just because I feel like that was a win, and it's
Yeah.
good that there was little things like that we were able and you were able to accomplish along the campaign trail. So
Yeah. I think every little step, like from the position that we're in, every little step forward is a win. And, you know, I just, yeah, every little step forward is a win. Um, and it's a slow process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight.
You know what I always think of? Anybody who's ever invented anything, anybody. I mean, you could pick any famous inventor or even, just the random person who invented one thing one time. Um, it is the number of times that you try and fail, I think is pretty, I mean, it's extreme by maybe your average person's perspective. And you're kind of like, this person's absolutely mad for wanting to keep going to try to
Yeah.
invent whatever. But that's sort of the point, right? Like, because they didn't view it like failure
Mhm.
as they were going through it. They were like, oh, I learned something here.
Yeah.
I learned this didn't work. This little tiny adjustment I made wasn't the right thing. I'm going to try this thing next time.
Mhm.
And so I always, in my mind, anytime I think about, winning or progress, I always think about inventors, because to me, that's sort of the epitome of the example, right? Is that you look at it just like, I learned something here. Okay,
Yeah.
next time I'm going to do this. And you just keep moving forward with that tenacity and commitment to whatever it is that you're trying to do, because it means something to you. You see the benefit in it. It holds value for whatever it is that and this could be applicable, I think, to anything outside of politics. It could be like, you really want to start a business and you keep trying and it's just not quite like getting there.
Yeah.
What do you got to do to pivot? Like, do you have to change your marketing? Do you have to reach out to a different target audience? Do you need to move your location? Do you need to go online only? Like, I just feel like you can take this and apply it to so many things in life. And I think perhaps, we'd all be better served if we thought a little bit differently about what winning looks like. And we got away from that very much like, you're either number one or you shouldn't have came. Like,
The other thing too to think about, because I think about the Republican Party in the state, and they don't win. They have a few enclaves, but it's been a steady, like, okay, well, we're not going to win this election, but we're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep trying, and we're going to chip away and chip away and chip away. And to be honest, from my perspective, they were kind of I will not go so far as to say inspiration, but they were a model for my thought process on this, because they gained seats.
yeah.
And they just chipped away. And for whatever reason, whether they did it, they took advantage of whatever was happening in the world and, whatever, which they did. But, they're chipping away, and it's taking a very, very long time. But, and, if Democrats are going to sit on this, which I have a feeling that, they kind of will still be like, oh, we still have the state and everything's fine. If they still sit on that, they're just going to keep, Republicans are just going to keep making headway and headway and headway. So, and I sort of use that as a model for my thinking in this respect. It's like, you've got to chip away at it. You can't have something that's been long established and expect you're going to turn it over like that. I don't know what thing in the world that's ever happened where there hasn't been a long progression. And then it may seem like right from the get, or like from that moment, that's happened rather quickly. But if you look back and see, there was a long buildup to something. And and I feel like we're in that long buildup to something, but it takes candidates who are willing. And I understand wanting to win, and I understand it takes money, it's time, it's away from your family. It's a huge, huge commitment.
sacrifice.
Fully understand someone's hesitation to not run unless they're going to win. I understand that. I'm lucky because I'm in a position to take the time to kind of try and build. So I want to use that wisely here. And I have been given that time. So I want to be able to help lay a foundation. Assembly is the assembly. I still stand by the fact that your local offices are your most important offices, school board, city councils, board of supervisors, little special agency boards and all that kind of stuff. Those are your more important things. But I do want to be a helper in that respect. And so if I can help anybody, I used, in those positions,
For
if
those
I
of us
can help.
listening, we've all discovered that we say too much. We're well aware, so bear with us. We're working. One thing that drives me nuts is like that coveting of power. I don't really know to what end. Like, to what end? Okay, great, you're powerful. Then what? Like, I don't know.
Well, you're having now that you're president of the AADC, that's first and foremost in your brain, right? You're like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah, for sure. I it's interesting being in a leadership role, right? People often defer to you. And it's interesting to me because I find myself really inclined to like kick it back to folks. I don't know that any one person should be the de facto. I think there's something about leadership where I can provide my insights, philosophy, perspective on a path forward. But I don't think that I should be the stop point of like, this is the word and you guys should take it and run. Like, I think that I'll say my perspective and I hope that you think about it and then come back to me with your own, and that we can find some some similarities, some ways to make those things meld. But it's strange to me that people, because I find, that a lot of people are sort of like deferring to me, want me to, I don't know. It's interesting because I don't think of leadership as that, as like me having that, like my gavel and that's the word. You're welcome. Go home now. Like, I don't. I don't even know what to do with that. I'm more just perplexed by it. I'm like, you're seceding a lot of power to me, and for what? Like, why? I have this title for this short period of time, but I'm more concerned with the tone that we set, the programs that we set, the way that we show up for things, the perspective of the community, like how they see our organization. What does it bring to the community? That's what I'm more concerned with. I could give a crap less about me being in the leadership role. Yeah.
You two are touching on something that I feel like I need to point out. With politicians and with leaders, typically, like, there's a certain type of leadership, or I guess show of authority that, like, look, I'm the smartest, I'm the brightest, I will be the one to fix this for you, and I'm your hero, like, type of leadership. And then there's the other type, where you give people hope and inspiration and give them ways for them to do what they want to do and build up what their vision is. So and I guess in a way people want to have their problems fixed. They want to, like, you just go do it, that's why I elected you. But really, in a democracy in this country, like, we kind of all have to do a little bit of something. And for some that might be like, I just voted and that's it, like, I'm going home, like, this is what's supposed to be fixed. But in reality, you need to show up in more spaces, even when your candidate wins. Like, maybe that's the time when you need to be active, and because you could get more done. And I think when an election happens, people just kind of go back to their lives unless they're really pissed off and angry. But the type of leadership that you two are sharing about and are doing is also kind of a way of telling people they can be their own hero.
Yeah.
You know, they can. That's why I was like, oh, when I was listening, I heard that. I was like, oh, they're telling people, showing people how to be their own hero so that they also build up these similar skills and leadership roles. And so that we're building up, you're bringing up everybody, not just like yourself and putting yourself on this mountain and saying like, I'm the leader, I'm your hero. You're giving that to other people as well. And that's, I think, an example of leadership that we all need. Every politician, every leader in some areas should be doing, instead of this, oh, look at me, I'm going to fix this and do this, because that's not exactly, we give up our power. Like we're giving up our power to this one person. And then that's how I think how they become corrupt, or maybe they were already corrupt from the beginning, but power corrupts, so.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
It's funny to me because I often think when people are deferring to me, I'm like, wow, you're seceding a lot of power to me. I don't know why. Who am I? I'm a regular person just like you. Like, why are you offering up power to me? And I think this about anybody who holds a position of power. Like, I always think that every person who holds power is just a regular person. They all still put their pants on one leg at a time, like they wake up with bedhead. Like everybody's the same. We're all the same. This should be a collective effort for sure. So yeah, that's.
I'm going to say something too, that what we did learn, however, is if you don't keep it within the confines of the structure, it can get out of hand. So, yeah. So there's a balance to be had in terms of, this is our space. This is the space that I am creating. These are the boundaries of that space. Run free, have fun, do what you need to do. But remember, we've all agreed that these are the boundaries, and my job is to maintain those boundaries as well, not just create a space for people to do, but
and I guess one of the things that I would say would be up to the leader is like final decision, like after everybody, because there could be, like you're saying, these boundaries are crossed and people can't decide, but a leader of a club or anybody will take all of that and hopefully see the best path for everybody and make that final decision. I think that is probably one thing that all leaders kind of have, is that final decision. And of course, sometimes that final decision, you're the one that kind of takes all the negativity or the brunt or the blowback or whatever, because hey man, you're the president.
That's the number one thing you have to remember when you take on a leadership role, is you say, I'm willing to take the hits. I have the social capital, I have the emotional capital, I have the intellectual capital to take the hits. That's all being to me, when I think of like some really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Like if I'm looking for traits for somebody, who's asking for a leadership position, one of the first things I'm looking for is their willingness to say, I'm wrong. I screwed up. I did this. Even if they weren't the person who did it, they're the ones in charge. And whatever happened under their watch. And so it's like, ultimately, I'm the one who has the emotional capital. I have the social capital. I have the ability to take this hit, and I'm willing to take this hit. And I mean, that's huge. And if, you got a lot of folks that you're, looking in office, you're like, are you willing to do that? You're not even willing to have a town hall, which means you are not willing to take the hit in any way, shape, or form.
This is so interesting because this makes me think about like the kind of skills that you learn like in early childhood, like your ability to take accountability, capacity for resiliency, right? Like, I think about, I said that, you're welcome, guys. Add it to the count. But when I think about people in office who, like you were saying, won't hold a town hall, won't come and be accountable face to face with their constituents, it strikes me as something, that there's a lack of skill there in the ability to connect with people and to be earnest, because I think most people would be forgiving if you came to your constituents or to the people that you mean to lead and you said, look, I made a calculated decision. Here were the reasons I made the decision. Here's the information I had at the time. And you know what? It didn't go well. It didn't work out. And then we've got this problem now, or this is an issue now, or whatever. I think people, most of the time, I think people will be forgiving. They will be understanding. They will say, okay, yeah, you're right. That did not go well. And I understand what you did, but not again. To me, when you can't even make yourself present to do that, it speaks volumes about your character and about your motivations and about your ability to really understand the role in which you hold.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
Somebody's preschool teacher somewhere, I don't know, they missed it.
Well, I mean, it's like for here in this area, they don't have to hold town halls if they don't want to. They don't have to answer their phone. And they don't have to, because the prevailing thought is they're winning. No one else is winning. I don't have to do anything. That's why I didn't have much of a opposition. Why would he? Like, why waste the time? Why waste the money? I'm nobody. So there's no point in fighting that. I don't have to go out and talk to people unless I can talk to exactly who I want to. I can not have town halls. I could not answer my phone. I could not be in my office when people are there. I could, tell one constituent, yes, I'll absolutely talk to you, and no, I won't talk to you. You could be picky and all of that kind of stuff because they win. They don't, and they have no legitimate reason to say, oh shit, I should probably pay attention,
It's
I think it's a character thing. Like, that's just, you don't know your
character.
It's a character thing. Absolutely 100%. Like, you've made a calculated decision to be a jerk and to be unavailable to a majority technically a majority of the people in your district. You've decided, I don't want to talk to you because I don't have to.
But that's interesting, though, because if you firmly believe in whatever value that you hold, I should think that you would be willing to get up and defend it.
Yeah.
Right? If you firmly believe that what you are doing is above reproach and the best decision for whoever is involved, then surely you should make yourself available to explain, yes, I believe that what I am doing is in your best interest, and here's why. Yeah. I don't know why that would be a hard ask of anybody. They don't have to do it, but they should on principle alone. If you feel good about what you're doing and you feel that it's right and just, then you should be willing to get up in front of anybody and talk about it.
And I think they're not doing that because they know it's not right or just. Like, they know they're going to get burned. They know they're going to, from my campaign manager brain, that wouldn't be the best case to put you in, because you would be generating a lot of negativity and all these things. But it's the right thing to do, and it's the thing that you're supposed to do, is to have town halls. And if you can't defend and hear like your constituents and people that voted for you or didn't vote for you, like, hear them out, then you shouldn't be in that position. And I think voters have every right then, or they have all the right all the time to not vote for somebody if they're not going to do that. And I think more people need to pay attention to that, to that type of leadership or lack thereof, where somebody doesn't show up and defends their decisions. And we know because it's not a right decision. It's not a just, one. And we need to come back in 2026 and hopefully vote that person out and vote somebody in that, no matter the party, that will be able to, at least at the minimum, do that, but also just be accountable and represent everybody. So
well, taking it back to like our own heroes and people just ordinarily living in the community, doing their own thing, like personal leadership too. Like, we could talk about, elected leadership, but just personal leadership and I don't know, I'm kind of interested in this. Like, you have that personal leadership in the way that you decide you want to run your life. Like, these are the things that I'm going to do. These are the things that are important to me. This is how I'm going to show up for my friends. This is how I'm going to show up for my family. That is your sense of personal leadership. And then what is it that then makes a person decide, I'm going to go out and this is important to me. I'm going to make my life about doing this. And I don't know, I find that kind of interesting. I think that's when we talk to our people that's a good conversation to have.
Wait, so I'm sorry, can you maybe state that a different way? I'm not sure if I'm, no, it's okay.
Did that make sense?
No, I'm just wondering, like, can you say more maybe?
Oh, got it. So there's all like these different levels of leadership. Like, you've got your positional leadership, you've got, traditional understandings of leadership. You are the boss of something, or you're the lead of some club or whatever, or you're elected official. But there's also this sense of personal leadership on how you decide to show up in the world. These are the decisions that I make on how to lead my life. And that's what I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Yeah. And so what are those things that makes a person decide, like, when we do go out and talk to these folks, when we do our interviews, what is it that, have you thought about personal leadership, and what is it that is like a guiding thought that then made you decide, hey, I'm going to go out and do this thing, rather than not necessarily wait for somebody to do it for me, but actually like get up off the couch and it turn from this, I kind of want to do it, to I'm going to do it now. And that's a personal leadership. That's a decision that somebody makes about, this is how I'm going to lead my life from now on. That's what I'm talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Actually, I'm thinking of, I think we alluded to this maybe today or last week about, people modeling behavior for us. I think sometimes, you become the leader or decide to move forward in a way because you've seen other people doing it.
Yep.
And you thought, yeah, that looks right. That feels right. That seems like what I want to do, the way that I want to move through the world. Right.
Well, I do want to, before we go, I think highlight something that happened this week.
Yeah.
Because, this is our Own Heroes podcast, and we definitely should be talking about some of our heroes. And I think there's a group this week that, for me, definitely inspired me, their actions, what they've done. And I know there's been a lot of protesting going around, and there's some even that happened locally in Auburn and others in Sacramento where people were out and sharing. And I love that there's a way for people to do that. But I was really inspired with what happened over the weekend at Yosemite Valley, with like the protest with some of the people that work at national parks and in that sector of the government. And there was a group, because I have a friend that is in Yosemite Valley, that she works there. I forget her position, but her name is Hannah. And she is actually from Loomis, from this area. And I saw the flyer for that protest, and I thought it was really cool. And I shared it at that time. When I heard about it a week ago, I had spoken at the Mariposa Progressives Club, and I realized they didn't know about the protest. And so I shared the flyer, and they ended up showing up. And of course, what they did with their protest, and also the flag that they hung at the El Capitan, I guess, I don't know what to call that, boulder. It's a huge mountain.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that so many times over the last few days being shared and getting national attention. I think even international attention, and inspiring others. For me, like, their actions in an area where, is our land and beautiful areas that we visit, I thought was a way to highlight, and also to highlight Hannah, because she somebody local that I have known for the past, I don't know, I think decade through friends. And it's really cool seeing somebody else outside of your normal circle, especially like in politics, be doing these things in other areas that are inspirational. So for that, I think Hannah is my hero, I guess, for the week or at this
Aw.
moment. And I definitely just wanted to mention that. And yeah.
I
Aw.
love
Yep.
that. All right, who's saying it this time?
Who's saying it this time?
Saying go out and be your own hero.
The moral of the story is go be your own damn hero.